The Chosen just released the latest trailer for The Chosen Season 4, and I want to take a look at this trailer with you guys and break down what I think is going to happen and why I think this is going to be one of the most emotional and interesting seasons so far. So let's go ahead and get started with this, but make sure you keep watching because later on we're going to break down what I think is actually going to happen and what I think is very interesting about this latest trailer for The Chosen.
Darkness is not the absence of light. It is more uncontrollable and sinister.
Okay, starting off really epic so far.
You were there, waiting. Because the darkness is not dark to you. At least, not always.
Okay. All right, good so far, good so far.
The coming darkness was too deep for us to grasp.
It would appear
No,
that we
not
now
them.
want the same thing as Pilate.
Senior leaders in every district should question and expose Jesus.
I just can't stop seeing how we could be doing things faster and more efficiently.
You deserve a stipend for your specialized work. You can at least make
Oh,
sure that
no.
you have resources to keep the mission
Uh-oh.
going.
No good.
My ledgers are in the red. I told you to make life difficult for the followers of Jesus.
Oh my goodness. Okay, all right.
It is on this rock that I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
Come on, Jesus.
This infernal chaos. Why can no one control these people?
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. It's very interesting.
happened to all of
I'll tell you guys why in a second.
It's about to get worse.
Now that I'm here, physical death does not interrupt our eternal life.
Lazarus! Come out!
Come on, bro. Let's go.
Remember you wishing there could be another way. And looking back, I do too.
What?
I still don't know why it has to
okay.
be this way. The bitter often mingled with the sweet. You told us it would be like that. Was how you lived. The man of sorrows. Acquainted with grief.
Okay, now that is interesting. So there's a lot to break down here, and I am excited to tell you guys what is actually happening in some of these scenes and what is going to actually occur inside of this season. It looks like some very interesting stuff. So let's actually start from the beginning, and we're gonna kind of go through one scene at a time. So we have this shot of a dancer over here, and when I first took a look at their teaser, I was clueless. I was like, why do they have a random dancer in there? And it now makes sense because it fits into the larger story. The Bible tells us Herodias' daughter, Herodias is the really sister-in-law that Herod marries. He marries his own sister-in-law. And this is her daughter, and the Bible tells us she dances for Herod and pleased Herod so much that Herod gave her anything in the world that she wished for. Later on, I'll tell you guys what that wish was because it plays in very importantly into this season. Right over here. So there's been a lot of speculation on who the new actor to replace Philip is, because the original actor for Philip, Yoshi, I don't remember what his last name is, he left The Chosen, and so they had to fill in his role with another actor. So we have this actor sitting next to Matthew right here with big curly hair, beard, big smile, and I'm pretty sure that this is the new actor for Philip. If you take a look at one of the next shots over here, we have this man in the back with an orange band around his head, which is Philip's signature look. It's obviously Philip there, and I think that this is the same guy that we have in this shot right over here. So I think what you guys are looking at is the new actor who's going to replace Philip. So it's gonna be curious if he kind of lives up to Yoshi's standards and fills his shoes. What is this shot over here? Let's zoom in a little. Wow, it says subscribe. Okay, well, obviously that wasn't in the original shot, and this is the cheesiest subscribe promo, but if you guys are enjoying this video, you need to subscribe because we talk about this type of content all the time on Monkastery Studios, and you're gonna wanna see some of the things that we're gonna be talking about coming up. so make sure you hit subscribe. We have a shot here where they apparently are approaching what appears to be a Roman outpost of sorts, and there are a couple other shots where even Jesus is teaching out there, so I'm kind of curious exactly what's going on. Is he evangelizing to the Romans, which honestly wouldn't necessarily match up with scripture, but it is kind of interesting to see exactly what they're doing. Onward, we get some growing conflict with the Pharisees. That's continuing to brew with episode after episode. The more recent development is that apparently the Pharisees are starting to kind of partner with Pilate in their conspiracy to eliminate Jesus as a political and spiritual threat to them. Over here, this is going to be one of the big developments of The Chosen season 4. We're going to start to see the change of heart in Judas, who followed Jesus in a youthful excitement in the previous seasons, and now he's beginning to become greedy. He's beginning to become corrupt in his heart, and so we see him right here in the shot. He's pocketing some of the earnings, which the Bible tells us is completely true. He actually would take some of the earnings for himself. Jesus obviously knew this and still allowed him to be the treasurer of the disciples. So he's beginning to become disillusioned, and unfortunately, no, he's going to end up with the saddest story out of all of the disciples. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This Roman general is confronting Gaius over here. I'm beginning to suspect that Gaius may end up following Jesus because this Roman general is confronting him for not being hard enough on Jesus and stifling Jesus as a threat. That leads me to suspect that we're likely going to see a Roman soldier convert within this newest season of The Chosen, which will be interesting. We get a shot here of the disciples in some conflict with the Pharisees. Here's Jesus teaching out by what appears to be this Roman outpost that we saw from earlier. Now, here's what's really interesting to me. We get these shots of this city with all of these palm leaves, and that's really intriguing because we know that this is exactly what happens on Palm Sunday, but I don't think that this is Palm Sunday because Palm Sunday happens about a week before Jesus' death, which creates a really tight timeline because we still have at least 1 or 2 more seasons before Jesus' death is depicted on screen. So I don't think this is Palm Sunday, but this is probably more of a kind of a precursor, a reference to what is going to happen. Perhaps they're showing a scene where the Jewish people are greeting someone else enthusiastically, so it makes sense when we get to the scene of where they finally do greet Jesus with those palm leaves. Now, this is one of the most interesting scenes in the entire trailer to me. So this is something Jesus references in his teaching. The disciples are being forced to carry Roman armor. At least we have Peter over here and Simon the Zealot over here. I can see Matthew in the background, probably some other ones in the background. And what this is an ancient Roman law. The Romans, if they were carrying a lot of heavy armor, they could actually compel and force, I think, just about anyone to take their heavy armor and carry their armor for 1 mile for them to kind of relieve their burdens and allow the Roman soldiers to rest while they wore out somebody else. They could force you to walk 1 mile. After you walked 1 mile, you were released from having to carry that. And now, so in Jesus in his teachings, he talks about this and he says, as part of his teachings about love and about turning the cheek, you know, when someone slaps your cheek, turn the cheek and let him slap the other cheek. As part of that same teaching, he taught if someone forces you to go 1 mile with them, go the 2nd mile with them as an act of love. So this is going to be a really powerful scene. You can see it on Peter's face. He is not happy about this, but he's getting a powerful lesson of the love of Christ as he's forced to go 1 mile, and eventually he's going to express the love of Christ by going a 2nd mile in this scene. So it's going to be really interesting to see this. I have no idea why they're running into this water like this. Maybe some of you guys in the comments can tell me what I'm missing. So clueless over here. They're running into the water for something. It's almost as if they're severely dehydrated. So I don't know what's going on over there. This is going to be probably in the last episode or 2 episodes, because this is going to be one of the biggest moments of the entire season, which is Jesus raising somebody from the dead, namely Lazarus. Lazarus is Jesus's most famous resurrection, obviously, other than his own resurrection. And so this is going to be a huge scene. Like, I'm getting goosebumps over here watching this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of build up to this as we see exactly what causes Lazarus's death and Jesus' friendship with Lazarus. We get the shot towards the end where Jesus is weeping, and that's likely due to the death of Lazarus. It's actually a very iconic verse in the Bible. It's the verse that's only 2 words long. Jesus wept, and it was in reference to Lazarus's death. So that's likely those 2 scenes tying together. I don't know what's going on. I still want to know what's going on in this scene where Judas is going after somebody with a knife, because this was also in the teaser and I don't have a clue what is going on. So I'm curious, like, they're all the other people are going the same direction. So they're either fleeing or someone is forcing them to go a certain direction. So it's probably Romans or Pharisees, more likely Romans. The Jewish people hated the Romans, so that's likely what's going on here, but I'm still very curious. And then this is going to be one of the other big, sad parts of this season, which is going to be the death of John the Baptist. It's been building up to this continual conflict. What eventually leads to John the Baptist's death is he confronts Herod for marrying his sister-in-law, his brother's wife. That's an act of sexual immorality. And so John the Baptist confronts him for that and ends up being in prison. And then, so as a completion of what I told you earlier about Herodias' daughter dancing and pleasing Herod so much, he offered anything she wanted, I think up to half of his kingdom, which is stupid. Men are stupid when they're impressed by just females in general. So he offers her that, and Herodias' daughter goes to her mother and asks, what should I ask? And his mother tells her daughter to go ask Herod for the head of John the Baptist. So that is the backstory to the beheading of John the Baptist. It's an incredibly sad moment. It's going to be one of the saddest moments of the entire TV show so far. So prepare yourself, mentally prepare yourself for that, because it's not going to be a fun scene by any metric. Oh goodness, I mean goodness, there's a lot going on inside of just this trailer, 2.5 minutes. It's a well-edited trailer. I'm curious. I'm curious to see, and I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. And I'm just hoping that they can kind of set themselves apart from some of these cultural issues that the church is supposed to be holy and setting itself apart from, that The Chosen has in some degree involved itself with in the past, namely like the pride flag that had on set earlier this year, and then the show's involvement with the Mormons, the Mormon church, because it's such a good show, and I would hate to see it tarnished by you know, something like ungodly movements within the world and gospels that preach something other than what Jesus preached. So I wish the best for the show. I'm excited to hear what you guys think in the comments below. A lot is going to happen inside of the season. For all of you Chosen fans out there, you need to subscribe, because hey, we're talking about all this kind of stuff on this channel, talking about Christ honoring culture on Monkastery Studios. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Tell me in the comments what you thought. If you don't like some of the things I pointed out, yell at me in the comments. I'll be there. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. All right.